Hi guys and welcome back to my new video. Today we're going to just talk about obviously Assassin's Creed Mirage. I know that is kind of content that I'm not doing for quite a few times, but it's only because I didn't play a lot of Assassin's Creed games. I mean, as you know, I obviously played Mirage right now. I've played obviously Valhalla. That was actually my last one with Unity and Syndicate. But right now I'm not playing any type of Assassin's Creed game. So, what do you think? Well, what do you think about Mirage? Well, you're going to just see obviously my review of all of it. I mean, I have played it through. I'm not just partying on it, but I think that maybe I will. But at first, I want to just obviously talk about the story because the story itself isn't that bad. The problem about the story is obviously the acting, and then obviously a lot of things that made the story that short. I mean, I know a lot of things about Basim thanks to Valhalla, thanks to obviously all the things that happened with Ragnarok, with the Odin story, with the Izu part. I know all this stuff, but the fact is that maybe if someone that didn't play it, obviously Valhalla, maybe we're kind of okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I want to just know what is going to just happen after this, and yeah, you're going to just maybe see this obviously in Valhalla. But the real part is the fact that it kind of just a little bit short, and I think that is kind of really bit just you can't find a lot of content there. I mean, the story wasn't that bad, but it wasn't obviously that good. So with this said, I just gave it a 7.5 out of 10 because I think that this type of story was kind of mid. Let me explain. The first part of the story where you're going to just be in Alamut, you're going to just see everything for the first time is really cool. But after this, the mid part, without obviously the first assassinations, was kind of really poor. And the last part was obviously the ones that were kind of more and more popular, obviously more and more interesting. And I like that part. Obviously, thanks to all of the characters and the development that you can actually see Basim obviously going through. And I think that his character, for example, that I'm going to just give him an 8, is well written. I mean, the first part you can actually see that is kind of more childish, and after he just became a hidden one, he just starts becoming obviously more and more serious man because he understands something. I mean, he doesn't understand a lot of things, but at first he tries to just understand obviously the history of this cult. After this, obviously, you just go around, just kill some enemies. The only fact that I don't just really just like about the protagonist, obviously about Basim, is the fact that you can't actually just see him just understand more and more about his past because he actually just don't fight back obviously his demon inside. Only, I mean, he fights him just in the last part of the game, in the ending. So it's kind of a little bit just poor written. I think that part of the top part of the protagonist. But if you just leave this type out, you're going to just maybe see a well written character that you're going to just probably like after Valhalla. I mean, in Valhalla, I liked Basim, but I didn't like him a lot. In this game, it was actually, yeah, okay, it's a good character, but not that obviously that good. For me, it's not obviously an S tier or an A tier, but I think that it was kind of obviously a B tier or B plus, if you want to just say that. After this, I want to talk about, I mean, I want to discuss about the combat because I liked what they tried to just do because they wanted to just give the combat really just more and more difficult to the player, and I think that they made it actually right because a lot of enemies were kinda really overpowered, obviously, than Basim. But the problem of the combat itself is the fact that Basim is not a really good fighter, and we know this. But the fact is that Basim is not that good is obviously thanks to the combat system, and I think that they tried to just implement the same of Valhalla, but they did something that for me was actually wrong because I think that Valhalla got a really good one, a really good combat system. I think that they would have just created something more without, for example, just taking the abilities out and then just trying to just make obviously the opponents really just stronger. For example, if you play Valhalla at the highest difficulty in the combat, you're going to just be probably moving like Basim, but the combat there is kind of more and more fluid and is more likable. Then obviously in Mirage it's not like that, because if you just play the games in more and more difficulty, you're just going to see more and more obviously dangerous and powerful enemies, but you're not going to just be actually there just trying to just be more stealthy, even if you have obviously something like a good combat, even if actually just the second opinion, second option, that is not that good to choose. Okay, I think that is kind of my opinion, and for this one, I just gave them a 6.5 out of 10, because I think that they would just create something more if they just wanted to just take something from Valhalla that was actually pretty good and not just trying to just make something new. Then the parkour, I think that is kind of really good. Obviously, if you know, obviously, if you see my videos, you know that I've played Valhalla for the last couple of months with obviously Unity, and you know what I think about the Unity's obviously parkour. You want to just see my review for Unity, obviously up here. But I think that this parkour is better than Valhalla and Odyssey. I don't think that it's better than Origins. You want to just see obviously my video over here, but I think that this parkour could have been actually better if they could just try to give Basim a little bit more speed. I think that they will try to just make gameplay even better with obviously the DLC that is going to just maybe out in December, I think, I don't know. So I think that with this kind of obviously elements, they could have just done more and more obviously about this type of game. And not only this, because if you talk about obviously the world around, we have to talk about obviously the setting. The setting, guys, is actually stunning. I mean, I liked a lot obviously the setting, and I think that is kind of obviously easily one of the best of the obviously last ones. And for this, I am going to just give him an 8.5 out of 10. Then obviously we have to talk about, I talked about obviously the protagonists, but now we're going to talk about obviously the characters, with the most important one that was Roshan and Nihal. Nihal was actually not a very true character, but it was actually curious, and I think that it was actually good character because you know something, you're not going to see anything, you only just want to see their reality after the ending, and this is such a really good obviously writing, and I think that it was kind of really good. But on the other part, we got the Roshan, that for me it wasn't actually really a good one, because I think that, yeah, I know that it was kind of a really important character, it was actually really good written when you talk about obviously the master of Basim. But if you talk this one out, you're going to just see a broken person that, I don't know why, just knows obviously all the past of Basim. She knows that he is actually a god, a demigod, and then she just do something that is kinda okay. I don't do this because it's not for the creed. Okay, but why? We are not going to just see a lot of Roshan. Why is she doing this? Even if in Valhalla, where you're going to just do some missions with her, you're not going to just see anything of this, and that's something that I didn't like. So with this one, I just gave the characters a 7. With obviously the antagonist, we didn't have a really important figure, but I think that overall, all of the obviously antagonists that Basim faced through are actually made. But I gave them obviously a 7 out of 10 because I really liked the missions where you have to just go there and kill them at all. After this, obviously the graphic for me is kind of really good. If you just don't obviously talk about the facial expression, sometimes it's actually an 8.5 out of 10. The cutscene 7.5 because they weren't as high quality as, for example, Origins. So I think that they weren't obviously as good as. And with this one, I don't know, guys. For me, Mirage was actually a really interesting because it was actually a really surprising game that for me were actually not that important, but it was kind of okay. Yeah, I'm actually curious because in this obviously couple of months, I only played the games that were kind of really big. Obviously, I played Valhalla, as I said before, Unity, and something else. With this type of game, I really liked how, for example, in general, it was obviously concentrated and wanted to just be there, be small, but be actually more and more present. And I really liked that in general. So I think that if you just want to play something that just remembers you, obviously, it's kind of this the old type of Assassin's Creed games, you should play Mirage probably. So with this said, we're going to just made obviously the final vote for this game before its new update. So with this said, Mirage, no fuck, Mirage for me, it's kinda a 7.5 out of 10. And I think that this is kind of the same thing that I just talked about over and over of this video. So guys, what do you think about obviously this game? I think that maybe some of you will be at my same point, but a lot of you guys maybe think that this game deserves more. And maybe I should have been just more higher, but I want to just see obviously the new DLC. With this said, guys, bye. See you in the next video. Bye, guys.